Welcome to the historic premiere of Internet Sports Talk on Lancaster Online. My name is Mike Gross of the Lancaster Sunday News. His name is Eric Stark, also of the Lancaster Sunday News. And the show's name is The Low Post. We're going to be taping this deal every Tuesday, and you're going to be able to find it on the Internet, on Lancaster Online. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of sports things, something different each week, and obviously a work in progress. So we'll figure it out as we go along, but we're planning to do some remote stuff. We're planning to have some guests. Actually, where we are right now is pretty remote, in the bowels of the Lancaster newspaper building on the fourth floor, in a building a room I've been in twice in 10 years at the newspaper. But remote in the sense of we'll be doing it from ballparks, we'll be doing it from arenas, that kind of stuff, live, outside stuff. But today, we're going to talk about the Phillies, break down their ball club and their season, and apropos to that, Starkey is just back last week from his annual pilgrimage to Florida, to spring training in Florida, along with Sunday News photographer and Will Rogers-like figure Jeff Rubenthal. So Starkey, share with us anything you gleaned from your trip to Florida. And we're not talking now about strip clubs or like the best margarita that you found down there, happy hour and that kind of stuff. So just the baseball. Talk a little bit about the Phillies.
My wife was along, so we'll leave out about the best strip clubs in the Tampa area. But the weather was
Goes
warm.
Without saying. Yeah.
So we're talking about remote, good weather in Clearwater, Florida. It's always great to do the interviews, watch a little baseball, think the spring is coming when it's 74 degrees on the cloud in the sky, and about the sixth inning, leave and go to the beach. You can't beat that.
Well, if you're saying doing a remote from Clearwater, I think when we get to that point, we can safely say the show is a spectacular success. We've exceeded our own expectations.
Yeah, well, it's a work in progress. Observations. One, Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard clearly have become the ambassadors and the team leaders on that team. They've surpassed the Pat Burrells. They've surpassed Chase Utley. And one, they're always accessible, but two, they just sort of walk around like with a confidence. And other teams, when they came in to visit the Phillies, went out of their way to talk to Jimmy and Ryan, and they have that image now, and they're backing it up. But I really like the fact that the Phillies have these stars on their team now, and the other teams respect them.
A couple of things about that. A year ago, we would have thought that Utley was going to kind of emerge as a leader. We know he's not a media guy. We know he doesn't like to be interviewed or anything like that. But I think that really has changed. It is Rollins and Howard. Now, here's a trivia question for you, Starkey. When do you think that started to change? A little over a year ago, when Jimmy said some very specific thing.
Yes. He made a little bold prediction.
Don't you think that was the beginning of that?
Yes, but I don't think it's ever been in Chase's nature to be out in the public eye as much. I think but it definitely
it would be forgotten now. It would be forgotten now if he wouldn't have been National League MVP and they wouldn't have won the division.
True.
His boast that we're the team to beat in the NL East was, I think, when he started to become at that point he was sort of this high energy guy that everybody liked and everybody kind of gravitated to, but not really, I don't think, a leader. And maybe we're making too big a deal about who the leader is, but I think it is important in baseball because they play every day.
Yeah.
The atmosphere in the clubhouse and is a big deal because it's almost like a family situation or a workplace situation or a combination of those two.
We'll talk about it more later, but Joe Sabry, the number one draft pick from last year out of Rice, he's up here just to get some experience. He's not going to make the big league club, but he talked about the next 8 months. This is his family. So it could play right into what you're saying. Jimmy not made that comment, but then he also had to really back it up, and he had the year to do it. But every time they needed the big hit or the steal or the extra base, Jimmy's the one that provided that last year.
And yet, if the Mets had not gagged, we'd have forgotten about that. Now, here's a couple interesting things about that. Number one, ironies I think about that statement. Number one, he was sort of basing that statement on the fact that they got Freddie Garcia and Adam Eaton.
Yeah.
Who turned out to be utter garbage and less than no factor at all. And the other irony is now Carlos Beltran now comes out and says the same thing about the Mets. Now we're the team to beat. He's saying we're the team to beat Rollins, but even though it's much more logical for him to say it, we had this spectacular gag and lost by one game, and we got the best pitcher in baseball now. That's what we had. It made much more sense for him to say it than for Rollins to say it a year ago, just in terms of hard baseball logic. But it looks lame because he's like a copycat.
Exactly. I asked Jimmy when I was down there, what did he think he learned to help him this year? And he said, we can win. And I said, well, you mean confidence, the swagger? He says, well, we always had the swagger, but it was sort of a false swagger, false in the standpoint that we had never won before. So to believe you can win, but you really haven't won, what have you accomplished? Well, now they have won. So, Jimmy made the joke about Beltran saying that. He said, well, the pressure is on them again. But the Phillies know they can beat the Mets, and the Phillies know they can be a good team. The Phillies also know they can out-hit you. So,
well, it's important to point out that the Mets did gag, and our producer Paul, I know, is thrilled about that news because he's a Mets fan. But part of it is that the Phillies cut their hearts out. The Phillies did it to them.
Yes.
So it's more than just the Phillies just happened to be standing there when this other team, jumped the shark or whatever. So there is that. The other thing is, and let's get into the specifics of the ball club a little bit here. They scored 32 runs more than any team in the National League. They're clearly the best offense. Some of that is ballpark oriented, but not all of it. I mean, Colorado, they scored 32 runs more than Colorado, and Colorado's, if anything, more of a hitter's park, than the Phillies ballpark is.
Yeah, they led the NL in runs scored last year, and averaged more than 5 a game. So, two things came out of that. One, the bullpen learned last year. The bullpen was strong down the stretch, Mike.
Bullpen was great.
August into the postseason. The bullpen learned as long as stars can get us to the bullpen, and the bullpen, if we keep them in the game, even if we're losing, if we keep the score close, these guys are going to outslug the opponent. So they've learned we don't have to overpitch, we don't have to do too much. These guys can hit. So I think it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic of that bullpen this year as well. And J.C. Romero, I talked to him in spring training, just really impressed with this guy and his confidence and what he was able to accomplish. And be interesting to see if Tom Gordon can hang in there. A couple different roles he's going to have this year. One, Mike Straub is the closer before Brad Lynch is available, and then to come back and set up role, see how long that 40-year-old arm can hold up for Gordon as well.
And when you talk about the bullpen, you talk about these ridiculously specific roles that get developed for bullpen, which drives me nuts. I think it's idiotic, but we're sort of stuck with it because it's baseball. It's part of baseball's business right now. Pitchers get brought up and learn to pitch in those specific roles, but the Romero gets both right-handers and left-handers out. I didn't realize until I started snooping around for this show a little bit. He is excellent against both hands. He could maybe be used a little more, have a bigger role than just be a situational left-hander. But Lidge is going to be the closer. There's no way around that as long as he's healthy, as long as he can get out there and threw off the mound yesterday, and supposedly everybody's very happy with the way he did.
I like the dynamic. I think Romero's going to be great. I hope Gordon holds in there. He's got the veteran savvy about him, but I don't know how his health will be. Matson comes back. Remember, as good as the bullpen was last year down the stretch, Matson was not in there. He was hurt. I think they need one more left-hander down there so that you don't overuse Romero. There's an old saying in baseball that one left-handed pitcher is like having no left-handed pitcher in your bullpen because you will overuse them. You get them up too
I never
often.
heard that old saying before.
Learned it from Paul Hager from the Daily News last year.
I'm not questioning you for 1 second, believe me. Now, best offense in the National League, but they made changes so that the sort of game that you play at this time of year is how much of last year was a fluke, how much of it is likely to be repeated, positive or negative, and what did they lose and what did they gain that might have made up for any sort of negative stuff.
Aaron Rowan had a career last year. They lost his numbers, but they also lost a lot of leadership. So, center field. But Victorino comes over, had a great year last year, strong. I think they've got more depth this year. I think they have more pieces of the puzzle they can move around during games, and they are stronger third base. I think Pedro Feliz better defensively and can hit, and he's been averaging 20 home runs a year. And you add that mix, what they got with Jeff Jenkins in right field, and the platoon with him and Jason Worth should be strong. And he, again, the last 5 years, more than 20 home runs a year. Second all-time in Milwaukee baseball for home runs, behind only Robin Yao.
Very
I believe it's
impressive.
218 I researched that, yes.
I think he's it's one of the few senses in which he belongs in the same sentence with Robin Yao. But anyway, they might hit more home runs this year. There's a chance they'll hit more home runs this year. there's a chance they will not lead the National League in on-base percentage, which is what they did last year, because they're going to have, unless Rollins has another MVP year, they're going to have 3 sort of okay on-base percentages in the lineup, or 3, maybe 4, just okay. I mean, Phillies is awful in that regard.
Right, he's too much of a free swinger.
And they may have 2 sort of okay on-base percentages at the top of the order in Victorino and Rollins. The thing about Rollins, and the reason why I would not have voted him for MVP is he makes out too much. He's just that's the problem with Jimmy Rollins, and that could be an issue. That could be an issue for the Phillies. But on the other hand, they could really hit a lot of home runs.
They could be fun to watch. Now, will they frustrate us at times? Sure, because they're going to strike out a lot. I know you feel that's overrated, but it still is a major fact.
Well, it's overrated, but it's frustrating to watch.
It is. Yeah. You know, the fact was, how many years now that they led the league in runs produced? Not just 1 year. They've been striking out the last couple of years, a lot of it. So it'd be interesting to see how Pat Burrell does. He struggled at the beginning of last year, but then had a really great month from like July to August and really got this team on the roll. And then he struggled again, but by that point, the rest of the team had got some momentum going as
He's
well.
a very unpleasant person, isn't he?
You know, the funny story I'll tell is I was in the cafeteria around 12:15, 12:30, and was just listening to Dallas Green tell a story and so forth. And I heard the sound of cleats coming on the floor, and I thought, who's in here in cleats? And I turned around, it was Burrow, the security guard. He was avoiding all the people signing autographs to go out around, to go in the dugout so we don't have to sign. It's usually all the Cole Hamels signs, tons of autographs. Ryan Howard, very busy, popular person, signs for the fans. Here's Burrow trying to avoid the fans.
He doesn't play well with others.
No, he doesn't.
And he's making all this money, too. That makes people mad. He doesn't seem like, he seems like a surly person who's not having fun. You know, you're making $15 million a year to play baseball. Act like you're having fun, for God's sake, right?
I want to like the guy. It just makes it very difficult.
It makes it very difficult. So in 2 weeks, we're going to do a show where we talk about the Major League Baseball overall, and we'll make our predictions. We'll get specific, but certainly the Phillies, let's say, if they're reasonably healthy, should be contenders and should be an entertaining team to watch that should be in it till the end. Agreed?
I agree. I'm hoping that I think we know what you're going to get from Hamels and Myers at the top of the rotation, but hopefully Kendrick, Moyer, and whoever gets the 5th spot in the rotation, Adam Eaton or whoever else wins that spot, I think they could be.
Let's hope it's not Adam Eaton, for God's sake. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The Phillies should be
question marks there,
and we'll give you more in a couple of weeks. So that's, I guess, our inaugural edition of the Low Post. And next week we're going to talk about the NCAA basketball tournament, make our picks, and suitable for ignoring if you're in an office pool. And we're going to be joined for that by Del Jackson, who is of llhoops.com and also a local basketball coach. And we may be doing that one from a remote location. The following week, like we said, baseball overall. And down the road, the Barnstormers, Penn State football,
Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, whatever's going on, whatever. And some weeks it won't be anything specific. We'll just sit here and talk about issues about sports, right? Are you with me, Pete?
I'm with you.
All right.
I like it.
So that's the Low Post. We hope you liked it. We hope you want to check us out again. If you want to watch the show at any time, LancasterOnline.com. And if you don't see it on the main page, if you don't actually see a little video piece of it on the main page, you can click on local videos and you'll find it there. Am I right, Paul?
You're right, sir.
Paul Franz is our producer and camera guy and lighting guy. He's done a terrific job of making this happen. My name is Mike Gross. His name is Eric Stark. We'll see you next time on the Low Post.